Hi, I'm Adrian, and I'm a bootstrap founder.
Hi, I'm Adrian, and I'm VC-backed founder.
And this is Two
To Adrian,
Adrians Walked into a
walk into a
Startup.
startup.
Okay, great.
Great, great. So, Adrian, why did you choose to become a founder instead of being a employee?
well, that's a personal question. I mean, I could try to answer that, but I would say mainly because why? I mean, there are multiple factors, right? It's the first reason is mainly because I thought that I could make more money by doing a startup. Specifically, not maybe I could have made more, but the idea was that if I work at a job, let's say I get into a big fan company, I get my golden handcuffs and will be well paid. But eventually, like if you want to grow and become better in your job, there's kind of limitation how much money you can make. Maybe in the States, it's more easy to grow up, but at least in Europe here, it feels like there's some hard limitations which are kind of hard to overcome. And I feel like, well, when you do a startup, you're getting kind of your market value, as in you build something, the people you value it, and if they value it, then they come to buy. And I felt it's more meritocracy in this field than let's say other fields, though I don't know how true that is, but I think at least that was one of the motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
secondly, like I don't want to die and think and I didn't try anything, like like I'm like, oh, how was your life? Well, I had 9 to 5 job. I went to office, I had my cup of joe, had a nice talk with my colleagues, did some work, and went home. And I thought maybe that would be a boring life, and I thought, okay, then maybe that's a one way to spice it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nice. So I remember me in my case. I choose to become a founder instead of being an employee because I saw me from early days, like from high school, I started to try to make money online, building websites, installing Windows to my friends long times ago. Yeah, so I remember me as building stuff from early age. So for me was from the beginning a way to do things. I also was an employee for more over 5 years, but in the first stage of my employee, I was a worker in a big corporate, one of the biggest corporation in Romania. I worked 3 months there, but I didn't find myself working in that kind of environment because I want to do more with my time. I want to grow in a high pace instead of growing in a, I don't know, really limiting environment. And yeah, I choose that, of course, to make more money because you can make more money if you are a founder. But it's a really hard way comparing to being an employee because you have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of stress compared with the being a simple employee in a corporate. But I choose to invest my 20s in building something that I will be proud over the years. And I chose to invest my 20s to grow personally more, that I can grow in every company while I be a simple employee.
Well, I mean, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're in a country where you wouldn't be allowed to do a startup, or let's say you didn't have any opportunity to even do it, because let's be honest, it is a slight privilege to do a startup. It's or at least it's more easier with certain circumstances. Like I think it's very hard if you have, if you have a family and you're
Hmm.
already working maybe even 2 jobs sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
you're just tired from work, and doing anything extra is feels almost impossible. So it is, I guess, a privilege. But let's say, I don't know, you wouldn't start a company. What would happen with you?
I if I didn't start a company, probably I will be a software engineer, or I probably be a product manager, because it's the more appropriate job to what I'm doing right now. So yeah, I see myself as a product manager in a company. Probably the first 4 or 5 years in my career, I will be a software engineer and build my path to a product manager. But on the long term, probably I will be a product manager. A product manager with a second job. I think I will have a coffee shop in Bucharest. Yeah. For my personal reasons, because I am coffee lovers. I drink 2-3 coffee per day. I like really good specialty coffee. So yeah, I will take the second job at a coffee shop, my coffee shop.
Yeah, I don't know about. I always like everybody's becoming carpenter in IT or does something maybe
Yeah.
coffee or some drinks related stuff. I can see that for sure. But for me personally, I think I knew what would have happened with me. So before building Clean Voice, I had a different startup. It was called Bezier AI. It doesn't matter, maybe a story another time. But basically, it was almost acquired by Adobe, and
Oh.
it was an aqua hire. So basically, they would pay me, get some nice bonus, and I would work for them, right? And I think I would work, I know, like a AI researcher or like a machine learning engineer, basically at Adobe, and maybe I would get comfortable, get my stocks, and maybe it would be still kind of interesting because I would do AI stuff, right? It would be still
Mm-hmm.
cool, but it would without the stress, without the risk, and infinite resources, and most likely I would have made more money than doing a Clean Voice, I think.
And if you will make more money than doing a Clean Voice, what does problem or opportunity made you say, I have to build Clean Voice? Why did you choose to build Clean Voice
I
instead
mean,
of making a lot of money?
well, yeah, I'm stupid. I think that's why. But for me, it's so I told you it's not only money, but also something which, like, oh, I didn't wasted my life. I did something interesting, somewhat risky, something you could say. And I wasn't interested in doing something too illegal, so I thought, okay, let's do AI. Yeah.
So,
Anyway, if you I mean, for you, I would ask, like, okay, you eventually, you didn't become a barista man. You just became the customer for a coffee shop, not the barista man. So the question for me to you is, like, why did you build your startup? Why not, like, I know, a CRM, or I don't know, maybe a coffee shop app or something like that? Why did you went into your particular field, Vatis Tech?
Yeah. For me, I started from a personal problem. Back to 5 years ago, when I started Vatis Tech, I listen a lot of podcasts, and I have a big problem. For me, it was really hard to search or go back a certain point of the podcast to listen again the information that it's relevant for me. So, as an engineer, I saw a problem. And as also an engineer, I tried to build a solution to solve my problem. And the solution for that problem was to implement a speech to text algorithm. Um, and 5 years ago, the speech to text technology field was a little messy with not so much good solutions. The main solution on the market was Google Speech to Text API for the Romanian language, which was our first language. The accuracy was really, really bad. So basically, it was useless. So after a few months trying to use Google speech to text API, we decided to build our own algorithm. So basically to train from scratch the algorithm. And that was really, really hard in 5 years ago, because the open source community wasn't that developed like it's nowadays. The data sets for the Romanian language practically doesn't exist. And to build an algorithm from scratch also cost a lot of money. I remember going to VC and trying to raise money. My first attempt to raise money from from VC, and nobody wants to give me money because I didn't have nothing. I have just a story and a dream to build a really good speech to text algorithm for the Romanian language, but that was all. I had nothing else. So yeah, instead of stopping there, I choose to continue. I choose to keep my job, take my salary, invest my salary here. So practically the first few months, half a year in the first part of the company, we invest all of our salary in building the algorithm. So yeah, it was really, really difficult at the beginning because nobody believe in us. So sometimes was also difficult for us to believe in. Okay, we'll get that. We'll build that algorithm. But eventually we did it, and was really, really meaningful experience. And after that, investors came to invest in us because we did a good job, and our first version of the algorithm was better than Google speech to text algorithm. So my questions for you is, how was your first few months at Clean Voice?
Well, I talked about like the Adobe deal. So basically, it's like I got a bit sad about the whole thing, Adobe thing, and you were listening to podcasts. I actually had the podcast back then. It was called Weird AI. It was about uncommon AI applications, and for me, it was like basically I just hated editing podcasts because it took a very long time, and especially those filler words like and us. I tried back then. There's this tool which I think is very popular called Descript, and it didn't really work well in our voices. If you didn't have like an RP British accent, it would not
Mhm.
work. So yeah, basically I built my own thing because it's like yeah, let me just try to solve this issue, and long behold, hey, this tool is not only for me but can be work for other people. So for me, building the algorithm was I had no clue about audio. I had some audio knowledge because I produced music when I was younger, and I knew I know what the spectrogram was. I knew, how audio compression works. Like I knew, some audio engineering stuff, but AI and audio, I barely had any knowledge. But I read a bit. I knew how to read papers. I understood how the basics because in the end of the day, it's all data, so it's not hard to, let's say, the knowledge, let's say, from language and from vision. AI is quite applicable also in audio. So yeah, I built like a prototype within 2 3 weeks. I was shocked how quick it went to build it. But for me, because I didn't had any financial pressure, I was still working on the side back then. Actually, there was a moment where I had 3 jobs while working Clean Voice, including Clean Voice. So yeah, um, yeah, there was some, let's say, more stressful period of my life. But yeah, I basically just built on the side until I had enough money to quit my job, basically, or specifically jobs. Uh, yeah, so I think the struggle wasn't from Clean Voice per se. For in the beginning, it was really just balancing, right? Like push getting motivation after work to do extra stuff. And yeah, in the early days, of course, I think everybody's like, "Oh, can you?" can you even sell it? Can you even build it? Building wasn't the scary part. It's like, selling. But once I had my first sale, I think the motivation was there. And then it's more like, how do you do DevOps? Because I had no clue how to manage servers. I knew the basics. So because as a bootstrap founder, it's more like solo founder, I would say. I had to figure out everything by myself, and then I had a co-founder to talk with my problems. And it was very hard in the early days to figure out the right answer, or even ask the right question of what to be doing. So it was very hard to deal with those frustrations. And yeah, what do I tell my friends? Oh, I was working on this and I don't know how to do it. It's like, oh yeah, what did you today? You did nothing. Oh, perfect. What an interesting, engaging conversation we're having with each other. So it was very frustrating to, but I think, yeah, it was. I had no one to talk with, and it was very, very hard on myself. That was my difficulty, not the actual entrepreneurship stuff. It's more like the mentally dealing with no speaking partner, for sure.
So you really choose the hard way to do things, a bootstrap founder without a co-founder. Why didn't you choose a co-founder to build that stuff?
Actually, almost every project which I ever did in the past, I mean, Clean Voice was my fifth project, I think. So, and almost always I had a co-founder, but with Clean Voice, it was Corona time, and it was hard to find a co-founder. And
Mhm.
at this point, I don't think I need a co-founder. So now maybe I could get the co-founder, but it was just reality. It was just COVID, and yeah, it was either getting COVID, which I got twice, or finding a co-founder, which I could have maybe risked it, right? If
Yeah. I remember my our history and me choosing the co-founders. In our case, was pre-COVID, so we had the opportunity to meet in real life and choose my co-founders. And I choose my co-founders for. Based on my inner circle. So my CTO, it's Alex. It was a colleague with me at my previous jobs, and another co-founder, Mano, which I was in university together with him. So yeah, I knew my co-founders for a few years in the point we started Vatis. So it was really easy for us to build things together, and the journey was much easier having a co-founder in the first days, because how you said before, sometimes you have to brainstorm with someone. You have to ask questions in a different point of view. So it's difficult because probably most of your friends will don't understand what you are building and why you are building, and yeah, probably they'll consider you a tech nerd trying to solve I don't know, challenge for humanity in the audio space.
I mean, over time, you just develop different personalities. So I had Adrian, I had the crazy Adrian, I had the Adrian back next door. I just remember having imaginary friends. So I think I had more friends at the end of the day. No, I didn't
Yeah.
went crazy. I didn't went crazy, but it was hard emotionally. But I thought a certain time you kind of have to, like, I was just talking out loud in middle of the room just so I can express my ideas and use a whiteboard and just talk to myself and presenting to myself ideas, because that was the only way to figure out and solve problems sometimes. Yeah, it was a crazy time. Now, I
Yeah.
think, I would like, I guess, eventually the ball got rolling. You got some money, right?
Mhm.
What was your first expense as a founder? Like, surely you invested in something, buying
Mhm,
something,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
a
Yeah.
coffee.
No, no, no. Unfortunately, it wasn't coffee. I discovered specialty coffee few years ago. So when I started Vatistek, I still was on mainstream coffee from the grocery stores. which I don't recommend. But as a founder, one of my first expenses was on GPU and people that help us with labeling data. So as I mentioned before, the data set for the Romanian speech to text algorithm we built from scratch. So we have to pay people. We paid students to label our data. So basically, we invest an entire salaries in GPUs to train the algorithm and in students labeling our data for the algorithm.
Well, interesting. Also, for my algorithm, I was doing a lot of labeling in the early days. I paid some people to do some labeling, but most of the labeling was done by myself. I kid you not, I think I labeled at least like 1 2 weeks all by myself by hand audio data. I can't tell you how hard it was meant to be, but I pushed through, and that in order to build, let's say, a better version of Clean Voice. Nowadays, actually, we don't even label data anymore. We have more fancier techniques, but in the early days, I was just a lot of labeling data, and I didn't have much money. I was paying out of pocket, like from my own money, not from the
Mm-hmm.
company money, people to label. I remember exactly who I paid, exactly 4 people. One person who knew French and Arabic well, one person who knew German well. Uh, my small brother, I paid him as well. He helped a bit. So yeah, and then one team, like a labeling company, but I wasn't happy with them. They made a shit job. So in the day, all the people who were close to me actually did a good job. But yeah, I mean, I think, oof. But first expense, like I think I don't remember expending anything from company money except the laptop, which I'm talking with you right now. This laptop improved my productivity significantly. Not that I had a bad laptop. I had a decent laptop. It was a ThinkPad, but it was a big difference once I moved to a MacBook Pro. I saw within 2 weeks my productivity increased significantly just because everything was smooth, etc. So yeah, yeah, the laptop for sure was my first expense, and I'm very
Yeah,
grateful.
yeah. I remember your old ThinkPad. I remember it, and I remember how you choose this MacBook Pro, the mini MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
But what was the first sign that made you think, okay, this can actually work? When you saw this fourth sign.
So I didn't have doubt it wouldn't work. I didn't doubt that there wasn't a market here. The only thing I doubted is the execution, because I knew I had barely any resources to hire anyone. So I knew that basically I would do almost everything you need to do in the product: marketing, building it, doing the AI research, customers, everything. And I knew this is going to be very hard because you have this mix of deep focus, like when you're coding and doing AI research, you like deep in your thoughts and super focused, and balancing out with things which are very distracting, like responding to emails. I think even marketing is when you build like the marketing material itself is not so deep focus, I think, as planning the marketing. Like the market plan is deep focus, but actually building it's more leisure work. And just the context switch, where you have to balance out the context switch, like today I'm doing this, tomorrow doing that. And that was my only doubt. I didn't doubt myself at all it wouldn't work. It's just, can I actually execute without burning out and maintaining a high level of focus? That is my only doubt. And even nowadays, I think this is only my only doubt now. My only fear is myself, not the market or the competition.
Yeah, I remember in my case, I saw the first sign that what we are trying to build will actually works after 6 months of training, labeling the data, iteration of the algorithm. When we released our first version, 6 months after the starting point, and the results was really, really impressive. So our algorithm on a specific data set at that moment of the time was media audio, so newsroom, basically newsroom audio. Where our algorithm perform really, really better comparing with the other alternatives from the market. So yeah, for me that was the first sign that we actually work what we are trying to build, and was also a really meaningful moment because when you try to build things for a long period of time, when almost nobody believe you can reach that point, when you don't have funds, you have to invest your own money instead of being on a beach and enjoying your life like others friends. Yeah, was a really, really meaningful point in my experience as a founder.
It's basically be like, oh, I can actually compete with these big guys because I literally did it, right? I literally built something in one particular niche better than competitors. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I think I like if Google ever like tries to go all in into clean voice, like I'll be completely destroyed within 7 months if they invest their resources. But there's not much money into it, so I don't think like they will go into it. So and even yours, like they can destroy you, but it's not so much like if in the big scheme of things, we're small fishes. So, but that we should never forget that if you try to focus on a particular thing, you can always beat the big guys. There's always
yeah,
opportunity, and
yeah,
they're not
yeah.
unbeatable. I mean, they're unbeatable. Sorry, but if you try to fight like in a small enough level, then you can beat them there.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember how often investor ask me the question, but Google can build that technology, why you will win? And the answer to that question is start from a niche. Start from a niche, focus on one thing to do really, really better. And yeah, being a big tech company doesn't mean in every situation they will outperform you because they have political games. You don't compete directly with Google or other big tech company. You compete with a team from that big company that trying to build your solutions. So yeah, it's exists a chance to win if you start in a niche and focusing on build a really, really good product and technology.
I agree with that one. Yeah, that definitely is true for me. I guess for everyone who's listening out there, it's never too late, right? to
Yeah,
join.
yeah.
Now, I've got here a question, and just so you know, listeners, we generally prepare a list of questions, and we just go by vibe and hook. And I have here one question, and I think it's a, let's say, a controversial question, which can
Mhm.
maybe incite violence. Which is, what's one of the thing you envy about the other funding path? So you took VC money. Are you jealous of me as a bootstrapper?
Oh, not necessary. Sometimes I'm jealous because being a bootstrapper means you don't have to align with your investor, you don't have to report to your investor. So basically, you invest less time in bureaucratic stuff. As a VC founder, also you have to maintain a relationship with your investor because they put money in your idea in your company, so you can take the money and give a sign in the entire period of
I
working.
I don't know what I mean. What Chloe did was the opposite of that, but uh, but I guess there's exceptions to the rules.
Yeah, of course, exist exceptions in the market, but I'm not that kind of person that took the investors' money and disappear, or buy a yacht party, or rent expensive cars or something like that. So um, we have a good part here. because taking money from investor allow you to accelerate your development. So basically, you have extra cash to accelerate your development, but came with a disadvantage of being in synchron with your investor anytime. Allow your vision to them. Sometimes get their approval to pivot your company or invest in another directions. Sometimes they will push to sell more because when a VC invest in your startup, they want to they want to you to make money. So basically, you have to grow as fast as possible and not necessarily in a sustainable way, because the growth is the most important metric for a VC. So basically, if you make money, if you are a VC investable company, and all of these things came with a lot of stress from my side, because you have to maintain those relationship, you have to grow with your company, you have to manage also sustainable way, but sometimes it's a contradictory with what investors wants. So yeah, I have pro and cons on that approach. But nowadays, really depends on your company and what you are trying to build. If you can build your company in a bootstrap way, take that way. Don't take VC money. If you can't build your company because you have a lot of resources to invest in pre-launch to develop your product, it's not another way to build a company instead of taking money from VC. And it's not a bad path, it's just a different path of building a company. So a different path for a different kind of product. And that was our situation 5 years ago. With our resources, our own resources, probably we'll build the same algorithm in 3-4 years instead of just 1 year. So in 3-4 years, probably our technology will almost be irrelevant to the market.
Are you still jealous though?
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I had the opportunity for a previous project which did was called Pentalogos. This was basically a tool which you put a prompt and you get like a logo. Like there are a lot of people in the market, like Luca, etc. So there are a lot of apps which you just describe your company and will generate like a logo. And I built something in that direction. And I met a investor who invested in such a company, or you could say a competitor of ours.
Mhm.
And he told me the story that they took not a big money, like just to seed amount. I think like 100K or something, or 250K. Not sure exactly the right amount of money, but basically almost the whole budget went into marketing, specifically paid ads, content, just pure marketing. And I was like, why would they do that? And the reason why I was like a bit skeptical about that is that their product was slightly shit. So because like if you compare to the other competitors, they had a slightly better product. And my point was, hey, just invest a bit in the product. Like it doesn't need to be maybe better, but at least kind of equal, because the distance was big. There was a big gap between them. So like, hey, at least 50K into the product. It's not crazy amount of changes you have to do. But because they had the pressure to grow and to like to show that there's money, etc. What happened? Like they got initial sales. They pushed up the rankings on Google on the big hard heavy lifting keywords like a logo generator, and they got a lot of early like revenue because of the ad money spent. But once that money disappeared, they slowly went down because the product wasn't so good. It wasn't just only advertising; it was literally the product. And they went down and they died. And for me, that was a big first time when I got like a bit scared of VC money, because like you're doing maybe not the right decision. Like you can still grow, but the balance, right? There's a small balance of product, marketing, etc. And the second experience which I had is a friend of mine. Sorry, not a friend. I would say more acquaintance of mine. He took VC money, and the VCs basically scammed the shit out of him. The terms were kind of shitty, etc. I don't want to get into in detail. Not sure how much of that is actually confidential. But let's say keep it simple. He just got fucked over by VCs, and that already put a lot of fear because I have no money to sue the VCs. I like I'm a dead fish already. So then so I like, okay, good, let me do something which I can build myself, and that's what I've been trying to do, like do small enough projects where I at least think I can build it, right? One of them being Clean Voice, but also my previous project Busier. And then you check online the media, like, oh, this company, news outlets, you see TechCrunch, this company took this gazillion amount of money, this company had this gazillion of exit, Forbes 10 under 10, all of that stuff, right? And I felt a bit like jealous, like, actually I also want to be there. I also want to be those lists. I also did something cool. Yeah, it's not making a million of euros per month, but it's making some money, and it's quite interesting. And I know how much I suffered. I know the amount of suffering, maybe self-inflicted suffering, but nevertheless suffering and stories through the suffering. I felt like at, at least I thought to myself, I thought like I deserved those things. But then I realized all of them, and this is conspiracy time now. This is Adrian conspiracy time. I realized that all of this media is just so irrelevant. Like all of these things are just irrelevant for your company, for your sales, etc. You don't need to be famous. You don't need any, like, all of these don't matter in the end of their business. It matters, do you provide value? Is the customer paying? And question is how much can you scale that, right? And how much? So it's more simple. And then, when you see those people who get in VC money, they get this free media. Actually, I was not jealous anymore. I was jealous at the beginning, but like I don't care because, first of all, a lot of them went bankrupt after several years. They get gills of money, gazillion of bazillions, and then they do nothing with that. They don't manage to get product market fit, etc., and they slowly disappear. And also it's just circle jerking a bit because like you get all the media attention, you get all those headlines, but they don't help you at all for the business, very minimal maybe in certain industries. So it's like it's actually taking away focus from what's important, all this stuff. And that's why I didn't care about VC money anymore. And I thought the whole thing is just a conspiracy to make people take VC money because that's the only way. And if you check all the top business books, they're all related to VC money. I'm not sure. Like if you go to read like what are the best business books, I mean, okay, there are certain exceptions like the E-Myth, like small things, but like most of them is like the hard things about hard things. I don't know,
Yeah.
but that book doesn't apply for bootstrappers. Garbage. It's cool, super cool book. Garbage. So a lot of those business books, I don't think they apply for bootstrappers. And this, my conspiracy is that the whole world is conspired that you only take VC money, and that's the lie we're living in, that you're not allowed to do it bootstrap.
So that's on the flyer rubric in our podcast, Adrian Conspiracy.
Adrian conspiracy. Yeah. Every episode,
Yeah.
I'll invent a new conspiracy theory.
Yeah. So if you are a VC-backed company reading the hard things about hard things, it's a book that it's applicable to a VC-backed company. I read the book and I see myself in a lot of situations from that book. And of course, it's not applicable for Bootstrap. I don't know books about how to build a bootstrap company. I think it's indie hacker, really popular on X. I don't remember the name.
Arvid Kahl, I guess that's what he had, a good book that helped me. I can tell you my experience. I think I might butcher up because I haven't read it for like 2 years. I think it's Built to Sell or something like that. But maybe I fucked it up. Wait, let me just see quickly. But it's from Arvid Kahl. it's he basically built an app, and it tells you the story of how he built it and sold it. I think it's called Zero to Sold. Yeah, Zero to Sold from Arvical. That actually was helpful for me because a lot of the decisions, like, oh, what should I do, etc., that book gave me like an opinion on those certain of these questions, and that was helpful. But I think the most helpful book, I think, was The Company of One. Like, hands down, that has the most impact of me building my bootstrap company. But now there's more options, and I've read some of them, and I think they're good. Um, like the minimalistic entrepreneur and so on. So we can mention some of those later on. But yeah, to back to envy question. I think I was envious. I was definitely had envy on like founders like you, but I realized actually later on, like, I'm so glad that I didn't went that way. I'm just too a chaotic person to even be a competent VC founder. I would just start fighting with the investors. So I don't think I will be, good at being politically correct with my investors.
I totally understand that. So, Adrian, in the end of our podcast, in the end of our second episode,